I want to welcome everybody to the Drug Epidemic Walk Across America, combined with Millie and Fresh Start Ministries. Thank y'all all for coming out. What I want to start with is how this came about. I'm going to give you a little bit of my story. 5 years ago, I found myself in a bad opioid addiction. I was bound by a horrible IV heroin addiction. And I found myself homeless. I found myself, I lost my job, my husband, my relationship with my kids, and the next thing I knew, I was in jail. Well, my family staged an intervention, and it got me here, court-ordered to Fresh Start Ministries. From there, I completed the 7-month program and was asked to do an internship. When I was in my 3rd month of my internship, I had started to rekindle my relationship with my children, and my youngest daughter, Camille, was found unresponsive in a park in Alexandria, Louisiana, on February the 10th of 2017. As a parent, you never want to get that kind of phone call. So I rushed to be by her side. In 3 days of testing, they finally determined that she was brain dead, and that I had to sign the papers to pull the plug on my beautiful, young, with a lot of life to live, 28-year-old daughter. Unselfishly, she had given the gift of life, and she was able to save 5 people's lives with her organs. From that day, God spoke to me, and He told me to use her name to go out and help other people get out of bondage and bring them to the kingdom. I didn't know what to do at that point, and all I ever did was just tell my story once a month at Fresh Start. But then after that, things started happening. I started getting recovery groups to ask me, organizations to ask me, and I found out there was no other organizations that addressed overdose. And so I started the first Overdose Awareness Day, called Millie Mattered Overdose Awareness Day, for the state of Louisiana, and I have it every August 31st at Alexandria City Park in Alexandria, right in the center of the state. We have had 3 annual events, and I plan on having the 4th. Well, with my affiliation with other moms, as I have started to learn that I was not the only one that was facing this challenge with not enough advocacy for this particular epidemic that we have going on in the state, I started meeting mothers on Facebook. I met a lady named Tracy Stacy James first, and she knew Tracy Curtis Carter. They were both out of Arkansas and Tennessee, and they had started these Can You See Me Now banners. From them, I met a lady named Debbie Nedler, who's out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and she had this dream of getting all of us mothers together to start these advocacy groups in each state. I was so blessed that I'm affiliated with a faith-based rehabilitation center, Fresh Start, and I had a lot of support. From there, we started putting these walks together last year. Well, due to COVID, we were shut down. So we had a whole year not knowing of what to expect to put these together. So we decided that no matter what, we would walk again this coming March. Well, lo and behold, praise the Lord that it's all starting to lift now, and we're able to get together. So this is for these faces and these parents, to let them know that their child's life mattered, that their child is being seen and is making a difference in this epidemic. Because as parents, we don't want this to happen to not one more person. We do not want another parent to have to grieve what we have. Those of you who are in recovery or in treatment, this is serious. It doesn't take but one time. That's all it took for my daughter, one time. And I'll never be the mother of a bride. I'll never be a grandmother. I'll never get to hold my daughter's hand again. You have children. You need to be the example. You need to know what they're doing. You need to bring them to events like this so they can understand that this is what's happening today. This is why it's called an epidemic here in our country. You know, I say this all the time. We are a pandemic of an epidemic with no vaccine. So it's going to take people like you, like me, to be a voice, to be able to come out here and show these people's faces and walk for the lives that are still here. Walk for the lives that are gone, to let their families know that how much they mattered. So right now, I would like the family. Karen, can y'all come up here for a minute? They're a local family. We met through the banners, and they have a son on the banner. And this is what my intention is too. I want you to tell just a little bit about your son.
My son was Jacob Sibley. He was born on September the 18th of 1989, and he passed away February the 7th of 2015. Not only was he a son, he was a father, a brother, an uncle, a grandchild, a friend, a cousin. He is truly missed, and if we can have just one more person that does not pass away from this overdoses and stuff, it matters. I mean, if you have children, it affects them children just as much as it does the parents. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a friend of mine that I've known since she's a little girl, and she just recently finished Teen Challenge. She's from my hometown. Her dad and I were high school sweethearts. His picture is now on the banner. But luckily, Kaylee is now in advocacy with me, but she has stories also of friends that have overdosed. Kaylee Hughes, please.
Hey, my name's Kaylee. I've been sober for almost 3 years now, and it started out as I didn't really want to get sober. I went to jail and then went to rehab. But before I went, my dad killed himself when I was 10, so that just kind of put a strain on everything in my life. Everything was, I don't know, as I got older, I got on drugs and started drinking. But then I started losing my friends to alcohol and drug-related problems. You know, when I was 19, one of my best friends overdosed, and we'd been best friends when we were 5 years old, and that was one of the hardest things I ever go through. But it still didn't wake me up from that addiction. And you know, I'd overdosed one time, and he was the one that gave me mouth to mouth and brought me back to life. You know, and if it wouldn't have been for him, I wouldn't be here right now. And then I had to watch him pass away. And that was before I went to rehab. And last year when I'd been out of rehab for about a year, you know, I had this friend, and every time I would see him, we'd also been friends. We were like 3 years old. And every time I would see him, we would just talk about God and how he wanted to get sober for his kids. And he ended up going to Bubba Ezel's, and he was doing really good. He'd been there for about 6 months, and then he left one day and he overdosed the next day. You know, that just goes to show you how fast it can happen. And God doesn't want us to be stuck in those addictions, you know, because yeah, we might be addicts, or we might have been addicted, and we might be alcoholics or whatever it is, but there's always an underlying problem to those addictions. And God wants to bring us out of that. He wants us healed. And when we do get healed, he wants us to go back and reach other people that are in those addictions and that are hurting. And that's our job, you know, that's our calling. No matter what our individual lives look like, no matter what our individual purpose is, it's all to bring people back to the kingdom and to be healed, to reach more people for the Lord, you know. And God's not a bad thing. No matter what he brings into your life, it's going to be good. You know, we go through trials and struggles. He never promised us not to have struggles or live through those things, but those things make us stronger. You know, if I wouldn't have been through rehab when my friend died last year, you know, and his kids are my God kids, I have to see those kids without their daddy because of drugs. And I know he could have made it through if he wouldn't have turned back that one time, but that's all it takes. And I just know God's got a big plan for all of that, and God's going to show up and show out in our lives if we let him move. But we have to go back and reach those people that are still out there. I mean, it's not just about getting sober. It's not about having a good life. It's about showing other people the light and letting them see that there's joy to be found after we get off drugs, you know, after we do recover. That's pretty much all I have, but I just encourage everybody that's in treatment or that has been through addictions, when y'all see somebody that is hurting, whether they're on drugs or whether they're not, just show them the light, show them their joy, and that Christ can bring you out of those things that you went through, and you don't have to be bound by your past or the struggles that you've had. Thank y'all. Thank you, Miss Lilly.
And now I'm going to ask someone that went through the program with me. We all went through the program together, and we lost a friend that was in our same class. So, Hannah, can you come say a word? Hannah and I went through Fresh Start in 2016-17 together, and we had a friend there with us, and she didn't make it out.
Well, I wasn't expecting this, but we all went through the program in 2015, 2016, and we became family. And losing Chelsea was really hard on a lot of us, but it helped us grow closer together. And we have found that in sticking with each other and supporting each other, we've made it through a lot without turning back. So yes, it is obtainable.
Thanks, Hannah. So now what I'm going to ask everybody to do is every banner is on a pole, and we're going to take it and we're going to walk our whole area mile. I'm going to ask our Women's Center Administrator, Miss Stephanie Campbell, if she will lead us